Today, we are looking at the topic loving confrontation. Today's topic is loving confrontation. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 16. And I read, Then Samuel said to Saul, Be quiet, and I will tell you what the Lord said to me last night. And he said to him, Speak on. Be quiet, and I will tell you what the Lord said to me last night. The devotion. Confrontation is one of those difficult things that most of us try to avoid because usually they are not received well. Loving confrontation means we tell someone we love the truth about themselves, even when they don't want to hear it. Human nature hates hard talk, but for us to be healthy beings, we need people who can lovingly confront us on issues. Most people love their egos massaged continually, and they keep around them people who will continually tell them beautiful and positive things about themselves. Yes, it is good to have affirming people around us, but more than that, we need people who will look us in the face and with great love tell us the truth. These are our true friends. Loving confrontation must be loving. If we need to confront someone concerning what he did or is doing, the receiver must feel our love in the confrontation. Now, this is important, and I'll say it again. If we need to confront someone concerning what he did or is doing, the receiver must feel our love in the confrontation. Do you understand that? He must know that we mean well for him and are not doing things to bring him down or to demean him. This is key. Many people who confront others don't do it well and actually use confrontation as a way to either settle scores or to bring down the other person. This is wrong, evil, and not God-glorifying. Confrontation done with a wrong motive will not receive God's blessings. Loving confrontation, even if not immediately accepted, has power to change hearts and direction. Samuel knew that Saul was headed in the wrong direction and had to lovingly confront him. Even though he was king, Samuel said to him, Be quiet, and I will tell you what the Lord said to me last night. End of quote. Because Saul knew Samuel's intention was good and had benefited from his loving encounters before, he said to Samuel, Speak on. Loving confrontation usually should happen when the other party is confident of our intention. Loving confrontation must happen when we truly feel there's something God wants us to say to the other party for their own good. Loving confrontation must not be petty or based on personal preferences. This is a hard but godly duty that could save someone's destiny. Don't shy away from offering this loving ministry to those around you. Once your heart is right, help people see ways that they might be headed in a wrong direction. Whether they accept it or not is irrelevant. What matters is that you do it with love and integrity. Praise the name of the Lord. Now, let me go deeper into the devotion. Today's topic again is loving confrontation. Now, Saul was already missing it. Saul was already headed in the wrong direction. Saul was already backsliding. And nobody around him could speak to him. But Samuel, who had had a long-standing relationship with him, was able to meet with him and lovingly confront him. Now, this kind of loving confrontation is different from what the prophets would usually do, because the prophets could arrive on a scene and basically rebuke anyone based on what the Lord had said, and they are not interested in any feedback. In fact, most of the time the prophet will just speak, whether they have a relationship with you or not. They just speak. And you see, there are people who are called into that ministry. They just speak. Whether you accept it, you don't accept it, they just speak. Most of us are not called into that kind of ministry. And that's not really what we are looking at this today. What we are looking at is a ministry that every one of us should be involved in, irrespective of what your ministry gifts are or what your calling is. Loving confrontation means that you have enough relationship with someone that when you see something they are doing that's not going right, you are able to call their attention to it in a loving manner. Loving confrontation is normally done within the context of an already existing relationship, unlike what the prophets will do. Loving confrontation is done in a loving way. Now, these are important indices. So, for example, if you see someone doing something that is wrong, but you don't have a relationship with that person, you may feel reluctant to confront this person. You may feel reluctant to speak to this person because you don't have a relationship with him. And there are issues of, it may be misunderstood, it could be taken the wrong way, and so on and so forth. And it makes sense that many of us may feel reluctant to share hard things or hard talk with people you don't have a relationship with. That is understandable. But what I'm talking about is relationship with people that you already have connection with, and you see something that they are doing, and you know this thing is not right for them, it's not right for others. Within the context of relationship, it is a duty to speak to such a person about what they're doing. Now, it's important to note that if you are building healthy relationships with people, it is easier to practice loving confrontation. If you are investing time in building relationships. When the time comes to speak something that may be hard, it's easier to do because the receiver or the person receiving your confrontation is secure in knowing your love for them. The people feel secure because they know you don't mean to pull them down or demean them or run them down. They are aware. And that is why it is important that whenever we want to practice loving confrontation, it must be done lovingly and also within the context of a relationship. So invest time in building relationship. It's like me trying to correct my teenage son. It's more important that I spend time building a loving and friendly relationship with him so that when it's time to correct or have those hard confrontations, he is open to it because he knows my heart, he feels my heart, and he is willing to receive it. And sometimes as parents, we don't invest enough time in the relationship before we bring our confrontation. And so whenever we bring confrontation, it is misunderstood, it is misread, it is misconstrued. And so many children feel that their parents don't like them. That's why their parents are always confronting them or disciplining them, because they feel, not that they are correct, they are not correct. It's hard to find parents who don't love their children. Not that the kids are correct, but the kids feel the parents don't love them because there hasn't been enough of a relationship built. And so it's important to say this so that as we want to help other people, as we want to lovingly share things that could help other people, let's make sure that we have, first of all, invested the time to build a relationship so that the things we want to say are taken well. Something else I need to mention before we wind down is make sure that you also check your motives before engaging in the loving confrontation. Because many people feel that they are being confronted because the confronter has a wrong motive. And it's important, if we want God to work on our behalf, to walk with us, and to walk through us, it's important that our hearts are correct. It's important that our motives are correct. It's important that there's nothing in our hearts that actually are not godly and righteous. It must be that our intention is only love and goodness. And so, if we need to confront someone on something, make sure we first of all x-ray our own hearts to ensure that our intentions are right. Because it's only then that God will work through that. Now, finally, as I begin to round down, notice the way Samuel spoke to Saul. He said to him, "Be quiet, and I will tell you what the Lord said to me last night." And this is very important. In loving confrontation, you don't just tell the person to be quiet so you speak. In loving confrontation, you are sharing a conviction from the Lord. So loving confrontation is not just sharing your ideas or sharing what you feel. It needs to be that you are sharing something that you honestly believe is the right thing from the Lord. I'm not saying that you heard a voice from God or you had a vision from God or something very huge and big, but it must be that deep within you, you are convinced that the Lord wants you to say this. You are convinced that it's the Lord showing this to you. Now, many people are sharing their thoughts, sharing their ideas, confronting people based on personal preferences, but they cannot say that these are convictions from the Lord. And so we want to encourage you. Sometimes there are things you may see in someone else, but the Lord is not giving you the conviction to talk about it. Now, this is not because you are afraid to, confront, but you don't feel the conviction to talk about it. And so you just leave it, because if you speak when God has not spoken, then God will not validate what you are saying. But when you speak, when God has spoken or God has convicted you to speak, the Spirit of God will support you. Now, loving confrontation is speaking convictions that God has given you to give to someone else. It may be hard, but it's a duty. It's a ministry. It's something that could save another person's destiny. And so in the final paragraph of the devotion I wrote, don't shy away from offering this loving ministry to those around you. Don't shy away. Whether they accept your counsel or not is irrelevant. What matters is that you do it with love and integrity. I repeat, whether they accept your counsel or not is irrelevant. What really matters is that you do it with love and integrity. Now, our world is full of people doing wrong things, and they always surround themselves with people who will massage their egos and tell them good things about themselves. But we have a ministry of speaking truth in love. And I want to plead with you, dear pilgrim, the way this world will improve, the way the church will improve, the way our families will improve, the way our marriages will improve, is when you and I begin to lovingly speak truth to our friends and family members. It must be done. It must be done. Pilgrim, don't run away from this. It must be done. It's hard, and most of us don't want to do it, but it must be done. I have spoken truth, and sometimes with tears, I see some relationships lost. And it pains me deeply, deeply. There's one particular brother that I am missing his friendship. I am really, really missing his friendship because I spoke truth. And I spoke truth in a gentle and loving way, not to judge anyone, not to confront in a negative way, just honest truth about a reality in a very loving, positive, and godly way. And yet this person has stopped speaking to me for months. Now, sometimes you will lose some relationships when you practice godly confrontation. Sometimes you will lose. But sometimes you will help someone's eternal destiny, because what you have just shared with him was a truth that no one was willing to tell him. So can I ask us to pray together at this point? Can I ask you to join me in talking to the Lord, telling the Lord to help us to practice this ministry, this loving confrontation ministry, this hard ministry? Can we ask the Lord to purify our hearts, purify our motives, purify our intentions before we engage in this ministry? And then for the Lord to give us boldness to speak the love that people need to hear. Would you want to join me in making this prayer even at this time?